say.
Oh, yeah.
Life's a tune today. Brentocast all the way.
Brentocast, baby.
Family stories roll. Laughs and heart on roll.
All right, here we are back again for another episode of Brentocast, baby. This time we're running the camera for Brentocast Live. The lighting might be a little bit weird, but, you know, hey, that's how we're rolling on a Manic Monday. I say Manic Monday because our new handyman genius here who works at nights at Albemarle Nutrition lots of times and sometimes for days at a time without a break and eventually crashes and whatnot, has put a bad influence on me. So now I like to come in here at night and do things when I happen to be having trouble sleeping. And that's what's kind of happened tonight. So it's a bit of a Manic Monday in truth. Today is July the 22nd. It's been like a month and at least over a month and a half since the last Brentocast. Now, a lot has gone down. I have been focusing these on Mom's recovery from her stroke, but you know, just a quick word to say that we are still fighting the good fight to get her benefits, and so far, with the Lord's help, they have not succeeded in denying her the benefits, and that's not through any kind of coincidence, but just pure tenacity on my part of appealing every instance of them trying to end her benefits and, you know, put it on private pay, which eventually it'll go to that, but hopefully Medicaid is going to be an option and stuff. But I only say that to say it's been 3 months now since her stroke, and the sad reality is probably she's going to be in the rest home for the duration of her life. That's not the way I want it. That's not the way she wants it. But it is just the reality right now unless things change. And I mean, I'm open to the idea that they could change because people do recover from strokes starting later in the recovery process than she is right now. So, you know, prayers and good thoughts, and hopefully that happens for her. But I don't want to dwell on that for these podcasts because that is really a bummer to listen to. And so much else has happened, although that has kind of dominated my creative existence for the last 3 months. I've really had to dial back everything else. But I'm at that point where my regularly scheduled performances and whatnot are starting to come up. Like, for example, next Saturday night, I am on tap to perform at Loafers and Legends. And that's going to be strictly a solo show. So I am going to adapt my approach to that a little bit. I've been thinking about the idea of doing that at Electric. I've never done that show Electric. It's always strummy, strum. And I do have a loop pedal. So I anticipate the idea of perhaps trying to do that Electric just to do something different, you know, and just more or less like have little progressions and play little noodly solos in the background and just see how that goes over. In general, they don't want you to be very loud there. I've had more success with tips in that place. I make the joke that one of the wealthy community members out there always tips me the most when I don't use a PA. And this fact has not been lost on me. So taking a PA into a small-ish place that you really kind of need the PA due to the amount of background noise in that place. But, of course, then you play and then they talk louder, you know, so it's kind of a self-defeating sort of thing with a certain crowd. And lately crowds have been very small there. So I'm contemplating the idea of either playing that purely acoustical, meaning no amplification whatsoever, just me, my guitar, and my harmonica, or taking my electric amp and playing my electric guitar and doing a completely different kind of performance. I don't know. But I don't book myself there very often these days, and it's been probably 2 or 3 months since I played there. So yeah, I'm kind of, that's coming up whether I want it to or not. And so I have to kind of take the time to prep for that, give myself at least a week's practice to kind of get my fingers back in shape for that. But lots else has been going on that I want to get into today on this episode of Brentocast, episode number 60, by the way, which is quite the milestone. I had said I wanted each episode to be 50, each season to be 50 episodes. And so we're technically into season number 2 right now, and you might have noticed a new theme song coming in, and that is germane to the topic of today's discussion, which is AI augmented music, or AI generated music, you might want to say. Now, in the case of that that intro, that pretty much is me clicking the make art button over at suno.ai. You can check that out for yourself. You get so many credits per day to make songs, and you can make any kind of song. So that's one thing, just going and hitting a button, having a song generated. Now, me being a subscriber to their professional platform, according to their terms and conditions, that actually is my copyright. And that brings up a bigger subject of, if you click the make art button and a song is made that you either did not write the lyrics for, or you just let it kind of create the whole thing for you, is that something you can say, I wrote that? I would say if you at least give it the title, which is the concept that it generates the lyrics from, on some level you have created a song. Now, this is perfect for some of the folks that I've had as clients in the past. One guy in particular comes to mind who used to take karaoke tracks of country songs and sing different lyrics or a different melody over it, and that's how he was able to create the idea for some songs to give to someone like myself and Harrison to go and develop a song. And I mean, I got mixed feelings about that too. Obviously, there's certain misgivings if you take the premise for another song, but you cannot copyright a chord progression just like you cannot copyright a musical note. So, I mean, it's kind of a gray area, and it sort of comes down to what your artistic integrity is. Now, in my case, I would never go, hey, look at this amazing, intro bumper song that I wrote. Now, I certainly could have written anything like that, and I could have played out the instruments and taken all this time for something that doesn't really matter. I just try to change up that intro bumper for variety for you guys, so you're not listening to the same exact clip of a real song that Harrison and I have done or whatever, like we were doing up until recently. But it's not really, I don't really need to spend that time. I can extend, I don't really play reggae either, so I don't have a reggae band. So I thought, hey, reggae would be cool. And so I just gave it a few lyrics and, it spit that out, which is cool. But how can a real musician, I mean, of course I consider myself a real musician. How can a real musician, a producer, use this tool in a way that is, in line with their artistic principles? And so that is the challenge, right? I feel like this AI revolution we're going through right now, particularly with regards to music and Suno, and then there's one other competitor, they're actually being sued by the big four music companies right now, and for good reason. I think they have either trained or potentially sampled a great deal of copyrighted music. Of course, the artists aren't going to get anything for a song that it generates based almost solely on what's popular, and the AI has been trained on it, and there's this whole discovery thing where people are trying to argue that, well, if it's trained on it and it just used something that adheres to the musical principles but doesn't actually sample it, is that stealing? I don't know the answer to that. What I do know, that as a guy who used Photoshop for his living for 16 years, I was really resistant to the idea of using the AI generate functions where AI would kind of build out a picture. Why was I resistant to that? Because I had learned a whole different hobby of using 3D programs like Poser and DAZ Studio to create these fantastical backgrounds with pre-made assets that put me in a little bit of a niche. I could do things that other people didn't know how to do, and all of a sudden now everybody can do it, and they don't have to put the work in that I had to put in to be able to do it. So that's a little frustrating, but at the same time, if I go, hey man, forget AI, I'm not going to use any AI at all, what happens is you basically choose not to learn a tool that is in everybody else's toolbox, and this hurts you as an artist, as a person trying to be competitive, as a graphics designer or a visual designer. This hurts you. So I learned that the hard way from experience, from trying to really be hands off on that, and then I was behind the eight ball when it come time to actually be able to use AI. And I have people asking for these really specific things that they've seen other people do with AI, and if I can't do that, then oh great, congratulations, you have integrity, but you're not competitive. So I don't believe in putting myself behind the eight ball of something that's coming, whether we like it or not. Whether we like it or not, in 5 years' time, my prediction is you will not have to be able to play an instrument to make original music, and I mean really specific original music. I think what's going to happen is I think Suno is going to actually lose this lawsuit, and then I think there's going to be a situation where either the big music companies, Sony, for example, owns that technology outright, Don't think they're going to try to put it back in the box, because they don't care about an artist making money. They only care about their shareholders making money. And if they can make said money by people having the ability to just hit a button and make a DJ Khaled song or whatever, they're going to do that. Okay. They're not going to worry. They've never cared about the artist. They've exploited the artist. That will continue in the future. And AI is going to be one of those things that's just, we can't put it back in the box, in other words. So you might as well learn it. The best I can do is try to use it in a way that maintains my artistic integrity. And I know Harrison, my partner, and I, we differ on this. Our thoughts about it. Like, I think his position is he'd rather not use it at all, and I certainly get that. But, does that extend to how you write your lyrics? Does that extend to how you research a particular genre? If a client asks you, hey, I want to do a reggae song. Well, we don't know reggae. We don't really, I understand the loose principle of it, but like, jack, 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 but we'd have to do some research. We'd have to listen to some things and learn that. And you could ask AI, hey, what typifies hit reggae music? And it's going to give you, it's going to spit out bullet points for you. Well, have you hoarded yourself out because you use that to do a little research for you? I would say no. I would say you're using a tool in a toolbox. Now, here's how I use AI with regards to music. Okay, I do want to produce an AI-generated album, and that's something that I right off the bat realized people are playing around with this and goofing off, but they're largely not even paying subscribers, and I want to use the tools to the fullest extent, not to just make up music that I couldn't make, but to extend my abilities. For example, I've written loosely 80 or 90 songs, right? I wanted years ago to do a traditional album, meaning bluegrass. And I went out and tried to do the work. I went out and started going to these bluegrass jams, and I found bluegrass in general, and specifically the bluegrass in Gold Hill, to be just absolutely something that I could not crack being a part of the community. If you don't know a Scruggs turnaround, if you're not a bluegrass player on the guitar, the mandolin, the banjo, or the fiddle, those people don't have time for you. They don't want to show you anything. They're like, we're special, you're not. I don't care how many songs you recorded in another style. You're not a musician if you're not a bluegrass player. That is very much the attitude that I've had a couple of those guys over here, and just trying to learn from them and tell them what my ambitions were. Hey, I don't want to be a bluegrass player, but I want to do a traditional roots Americana album with bluegrass instrumentation. Could you help me? And one guy was kind enough to come over here once or twice, and I appreciated that, but he was really straightforward with me about, well, man, people aren't going to be, you're going to have a hard time getting people into this idea. And he's right. I absolutely tried that for about 3 months, and I realized I was wasting my time. Other than I can hire people to do it, which is extremely expensive. And then, of course, what am I doing? I'm just putting my vocal on top of some other players, and I don't know, man. It's just like my desire to do it started to wane. I thought, well, I'll probably just never do that. So then Suno comes along. About a year and a half ago, I tried it out, and I realized it wasn't far enough along to be something I could use. So recently, a friend that I used to do some work with, and I don't work with him so much anymore, but he said, hey, we should do a little collaboration. Just send me some lyrics. And so, to be honest, I did some throwaway lyrics for this concept that he put forward. And the next day, he sends me back 2 fully polished demos of that song in different styles. And I was like, okay, what gives? And so he dished, and he told me what he used. And then I got to looking in it, and I obsessed on it for about a week, stayed up all night, several nights working on it, and was able to kind of crack the code to how you use this tool. Got into another tool that let me split off what the file that Suno spits out and into stem files, and be able to mix it and clone voices and things of that nature, where I'd take a client's voice, 15 minutes of a client's example voice singing with no effects on it, and I could create a vocal clone that would make whatever Suno spit out sound like that person. And in the course of that, one of my former clients that I had done a music project the traditional way for became interested in that. So we decided, hey, I've got my project, and I'm 6 songs into a project whereby this person who ostensibly cannot sing is now able to sing, and it sounds like them. It's not taking his performance and tuning it, which certainly could be done. It would sound very robotic and not great. This samples the characteristics of his voice, and I'm able to like either sing it myself or get an output from Suno and run it through this process, and it sounds like him singing, and he's thrilled by it. And we're doing a comedy album, so it's songs based on stories he's written, and we're going to be releasing that as sort of a surprise gift to his more musically inclined family members that we've also done some work for. And I just think that's a hilarious usage of this technology, and also it's a gag, but at the end of it, we'll be really honest about how we did it. So there's nothing nefarious about it, but it does. This person who ostensibly wants to be more musical or musically inclined and involved in music has the ability now to do an album that absolutely could not have been done to this level, even with the greatest players in the world a year ago, just because of his inability to sing in a fashion that could be tuned to sound natural. So it's pretty exciting stuff. Now, conversely, another client who I had all but decided I wasn't going to work with anymore. I realized this was perfect for that person. And I did some preliminary examples for them, and they were real enthusiastic for a minute, but then I had to draw on years of experience with this person. And I just got to thinking about it, and I was like, well, Brent, you're about to do a bunch of work here that you're not going to be compensated for or given credit for based on how previous projects went. And I thought to myself, hey, I'm not even worried about them listening to this because narcissists don't listen to other people's podcasts, so there's no danger there. But at a certain point, I referred to, hey, I've kind of done this preliminary work for you. I've sort of laid out what I was going to charge this person less than I should have, as I have in the past. In the past, I've done a bunch of free work for them. And I think once you lay that template down, you sort of devalue yourself. And discussing this with another producer friend of mine, I said, hey, what he said to me the other day? He said, I don't like it when you refer to me as client. We're collaborators. And I'm like, well, the definition of collaborator involves two parties doing actual work. Saying, hey, do this for me, and I'd like something like this. That is not collaboration. And it's ironic I'm talking about tools that make the actual work easier, but when that person can't even be bothered to learn the tools, that is not a collaborator. That is a client. I do expect to be paid for my time, particularly when I'm spending my money to do, for these various platform tools. And I've run into that in the past where they asked me to do something kind of for free for them that cost me to do. And I was like, hey, guy, like if it's $30 that it cost me for this tool, you have to at least pay the $30. And ironically, I've had difficulty getting as little as $30 out of this dude. So I was like, hey, you know what, Brent, you got to really choose who you try to use these tools with. This or anyway, where I came was I was like, you know what, I'm just going to put a pin in that and not even try to pitch this to the average client. Only clients that I know could benefit from it and see the value of it. And that might be hard. And I was discussing this with my producer friend who, he did a AI kind of reinvention of a song that a guy had, and the guy balked. He said it was so amazing that it moved him to tears hearing this song re-envisioned, but he balked at even paying $1 for it. How ridiculous, right? Again, I don't do music to make money. I do it because it's my passion. However, if it costs me to do a project, it's going to cost whoever I'm doing it for. That's only fair. And, you don't have to stand tall in this hobby / genre, but you do have to stand up. Otherwise, you get walked on. And so that's where I'm at on that. But yeah, so all this has transpired in the last month and a half with this AI revolution. It'll be interesting to see where it goes. But looking back at various making of podcasts, which is something I do from time to time, this is not something the general public has access to, but my YouTube channel, which, for the last, basically since December of last year, I got a couple of copyright strikes right in a row for songs that I had put up had been up for years. And actually, I can tell you that in both cases, it was me and Harrison performing Tequila Sunrise by the Eagles. Well, they have a really overzealous firm that runs their music rights, and they copyright struck me for that, doing a cover of their song, not saying, hey, this is the Eagles, but here's our cover of an Eagles song, which is not illegal by any stretch of the imagination. But they had really gotten with YouTube to tighten up their algorithm on that, and it gave me 2 copyright strikes. I had 4 100 videos, a lot of which would be Delilah's early years, and that was my main backup source. And I got so pissed. I was like, hey, you know what? I've been putting up these weekly blogs here for 4 years now. I'm going to stop doing that. I'm going to put those up at Rumble. And I do love Rumble, and I still do Rumble. I uploaded to Rumble yesterday. And so I've been doing weekly vlogs for pretty much Delilah's whole life. She just turned 5, so that's 5 years. And I realized that I still find YouTube to be the easier platform to watch back on television when I'm just sitting at home or I can't sleep or whatever, and I want to log in and see what I've done or the last time I uploaded this or that. And I still prefer YouTube on the whole to Rumble, but Rumble is the more honest platform. And it's actually the only platform I've ever actually earned any money on. Not for nothing, but I mean, if you're going to earn money on one and you're not on the other, you're more inclined to use that one. So I think now I'm going to try to go back and plug back in those videos. My fear was that I would get copyright stricken the third time and lose all those videos of Delilah, and I didn't want to do that. So I just said, well, hey, I'm not going to upload anything until this little scare has passed. And so you have to wait 3 months or be infraction free for 3 months to have those copyright strikes removed, or not being like pending sort of Damocles like over your account possibly being deleted. So that time has passed now because I wasn't uploading anything, and I've started to upload again to YouTube, and I want to upload. Obviously, this will be cross posted to YouTube, this Brentocast, and I've tried to update my playlist so that it's concurrent with all the episodes that I have. There's an episode. I call it a lost episode, but basically it was just an episode that was just a little too sensitive for the topics that we talked about, and I decided not to publish that one. But other than that, this is going to be episode 60. So it's a running thing, and I'm trying to make these a little bit more concise and structured. I want to do film reviews from time to time, but I haven't been doing anything but just really vlogging through all this difficulty with my mom's health and whatnot. And I lament that, because it's not interesting to listen to that stuff back. But if I talk about current events, at least there's that. And I do this podcast for myself and potentially for Delilah if she ever wants to listen back to what was happening when she was 5 years old. Delilah has just turned 5, July the 11th at 4:28 p.m. And I always said, when Delilah turns 5, she will take piano lessons, and I will personally be her guitar instructor. Well, the piano lessons have started. She had her first lesson. It didn't go great. She was very scared, but the lady was awesome and really hung in there with her, and I'm looking forward to getting her second lesson tomorrow. I'm going to document these bad boys. We're going to see the progress. That child will have the ability to read and write music, by the time she's of age, and that's just going to happen as long as I'm around and have the money to make it happen. I got the passion. I got the heart. We're going to build this child into a musician because she has timing. Her timing is just instinctively good, and I recognize this. Her music teacher at pre-K has told me, hey, Delilah has really got it on the timing. And I thought, great, because that's something that I wish somebody had said to me and helped me, bolster my skill set. I have done whatever I've done, if you think there's any value to it at all, to my musical output. I have done it sheerly by force of will, no natural talent. My former friend Neil Martin Mabry, no longer somebody I call a friend, but I have a long history with him. And I always say, man, I played guitar for 3 years, and when he picked up the guitar in 3 months, he was as good as me or better. That's unfair, but that's just the way it is with some people's talent level and their innate ability to pick up, instruments and learn them. My friend Caleb Hill, I have never seen an instrument that he couldn't just pick up and play. And, you're just like, geez, man, wow. It's just some people have it like that. And, that's amazing. And I hope Delilah does have it like that, but she's going to have the foundational knowledge and not have to fight this struggle for music theory like I do. Like I have to reference a wheel. If I want to see the circle of fifths, I don't remember that stuff. My partner Harrison's great at stuff like that. I'm not. My mind is not geared that way. I can play good enough on the piano and the guitar to be a songwriter and a producer. And that's great. I'm happy about that. And that's really kind of where I live as an artist. So that said, everything is going good on the creative front. I'm back at it now. I'm going to get more serious about these weekly, I do better when I'm doing creative output. I just emotionally, I've kind of come off of that, and you do it because you're hassled. You're like, hey man, I got to be at the rest home every day or whatever. I'm trying to do this Medicaid stuff, not getting really the support or help that I need from my brother, who really should be as engaged as me. He has a business to run. I'm not even like kicking off on him. I'm just saying I've been trying to take up his slack with regards to visitation, and I've had to dial that back because, stopping the creative stuff has not put me in a great place. I am an artist. I need to have that output. And as an artist, it doesn't matter if it's good art, just do some art, do something. Yeah, that's kind of where it's at. So we've broken the 22-minute threshold. I always like to keep these to 22 minutes. So I'm going to cap this off now and just say I love you all in the future listening back to this. Hope everyone is well. Hope you have a great week. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode of Brentocast.